To another episode of Equity Mates. My name is Bryson. As always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How's it going?
I'm very good, Bryce. Great to be back for another day, end of our week, Thursday afternoon. What better topic to talk about than space?
Yeah. We've got a big topic to get through today because 3 companies are racing to be the first landlords in space.
That's it. We're negative gearing in space now. Well, Australians love property, and
Yes.
we figured why not take that love and put it directly above us.
Yeah, if you thought property in Sydney was expensive, try property in outer space.
No, but the real story here is about the International Space Station and the potential to privatize its replacement. So we want to tell that story because we think it's the first, it's the green shoot in what will be a massive industry in the future. Has the potential to be a massive industry. And we also will talk about some of the companies that are in the race to be the first landlords in space, what that means and who's leading the race. There's one company that's publicly listed and a number of others that you may be familiar with that may be listed one day. So we'll get into all of that. But let's start at the very beginning. The International Space Station. What is it?
It's a space station for internationals.
And that's the quality of content you can expect at Equity Mates.
No, look, it's been orbiting around the Earth for 20 years now. It's been up there for quite a while. Has obviously been a pretty important feature of space. Yeah,
it was in the post-Soviet, the era. The US and Russia partnered to create it and to put astronauts and cosmonauts up there. It was a real symbol of post-Soviet friendship between the two countries. And for 20 years, it's been humanity's home in low Earth orbit, our home in space. And, a lot of scientific missions have gone up there. A lot of astronauts from different countries have gone up there. But space is a very harsh environment. And after 2 decades up there, it's looking a little worse for wear. And talks of a replacement are really starting to pick up.
Yeah, well, they don't think it's going to survive forever, obviously.
No, they don't think it's going to survive this decade.
Yeah, 2028 or 2030 are the estimated years in which it's going to probably turn to space junk, really. I don't know what to blow it up. I don't know what they'll do with it.
There's a whole conversation about space junk and like how people navigate it and all of that stuff. Like it's fascinating, like how things don't hit each other up there more often. Yeah, or they do and they just keep it really quiet.
Yeah, but I feel like if the ISS hit a rock,
I feel like
the
space station might be like it would be like the bulldozer in this situation, just mowing through little satellites.
All the private ones that small companies are sending up. I think plowed.
I think a lot of
it's all to do with you put them in certain orbits.
Yeah. And like some of the vehicles up there have propulsion systems. Which is actually relevant in a controversy around the International Space Station. Because for 20 years, the International Space Station might have been a symbol of world cooperation. But the world isn't cooperating now. And the context that we're operating in space in 2021 reflects our context on Earth. The US and Russian relations are at a low ebb and somehow continue going lower, both in general, but in space as well. Russia had a near disastrous docking of a science module with the International Space Station, and their thrusters were firing, and it created all these problems, and it was like a real they just saved the day situation. And then Russia, to cover that up, made up some story about a NASA astronaut having an emotional breakdown and damaging a Russian ship, which apparently was just completely made up. A lot of accusations being thrown around in space. So the likelihood of the US and Russia working together on the replacement for the International Space Station, not high. At the same time, China has taken matters into their own hands and launched their own space station, the Tiangong space station launched in April this year. So NASA's going it alone.
Yeah, which it doesn't surprise me, but their approach is a little different.
It saddens me a little bit.
That there's no global cooperation.
Yeah, and the potential to militarize space is heightened if they're competitive up there, and you know, just there's a lot of bad things that could happen in space. Yeah.
Well, so NASA are looking at going it alone. However, the way that they're trying or proposing to do it is actually to get a private company to fund it, build a space station up there, and then they become the tenants.
Yeah, they've said, like a Coles or a Woolworths in a Westfield, NASA will be the anchor tenants of this private space station.
Which is pretty interesting.
But I think it is interesting context to just look at how this private industry has flourished in the past few years. Because this isn't the first time that billionaires and multimillionaires and big companies have tried to privatize space. It's just the first time that it's been really successful. You know, when Elon Musk started SpaceX, his friends sat him down and took him through the long list of rich people that lost a lot of money trying to do things in space. And it just so happens that we are living in the time where, you know, there's enough smart people and enough new technology and enough capital all in the same place at the same time to solve some of these problems. And we've seen the privatization of space transport, of getting things to space. But what you do when you're in space is still really controlled by the government. It's the International Space Station and not a lot else. And so this is now privatizing the destination.
Which then has flow-on effects to what we're going to be able to do up there.
Yeah.
Tourism becomes much more feasible.
Like scientific research that, you know, is privately funded or university funded rather than government funded.
Businesses up there.
Businesses, a whole litany of things can sort of spring up that the government wouldn't have allowed. The government wouldn't have Bryce Lesky's space tours parked up in one half of the International Space Station.
Bucks weekends in space.
Bucks weekends in space. Wow.
That would be epic.
That would be epic. Space honeymoons.
Space honeymoons. Really opens up a lot of possibilities.
We shotgun that idea. Don't steal it. So it's at this point it's theoretical. NASA have sort of floated this idea of becoming an anchor tenant. And there's a lot of reasons why, you know, there's a lot of flow-on benefits, I guess, that, you know, when private capital and private markets come in here, what we have in space, who can get there, how much it costs to get there, all of that stuff should come down. So then the question is, how are they doing it? Like, what's the mechanism here? Are NASA just, what's the play?
Well, they have what is called the Commercial Low Earth Orbit Destinations Project, which is essentially they're going to allocate up to $400 million in contracts to private companies developing space stations. So hopefully there is that money is allocated correctly and fairly.
Hopefully.
But yeah, they're putting a fair bit of cash behind it. 400 million, I don't know if that's a lot in the grand scheme of sending things to space and building things in space. It feels like it's a billion, it's easily $1 billion business, but they're putting their money where their mouth is and at least aiding these companies to get up there.
Yeah. So at this stage, and we should stress this is at this stage because there might be more bids coming in, but at this stage there's 3 competing bids, 5 major companies involved. So the first one is Axiom Space. They're a private company. They've raised about $140 million over the years, valued at about $1 billion. And for years, they've been banging the drum of private space station. They've been trying to raise money. They've been trying to get approvals. And pre all of this conversation around NASA's new procurement exercise, all of that, Axiom have been out there talking about private space stations.
Why haven't they executed?
It's tough.
Is it?
Well, one, you've got to get a lot of approvals. You've got to get a lot of stakeholders on board. Like, do you do Scrum-based project management or waterfall-based? Like,
who you have to get approval from the country?
Yeah, like I
NASA?
imagine a lot of countries, but yeah.
Like they own space?
No one owns space. There's international treaties around space.
Okay, yeah.
But you'd have to get a lot of money. You'd have to invent a lot of technology. Like, I don't know how forthcoming NASA would be with a lot of the stuff on the International Space Station.
Yeah, sure.
So, but look, we don't know the details of their business difficulties, but I would say in the spectrum of difficult business problems to solve, building your own International Space Station is right up there.
I'd say they're not going to win it.
Okay, well we've only got to one. So
Just based off what I'm hearing, they're not going to win it. Good luck. I don't think so.
Okay. So Axiom is number one. Number two is a joint bid between Lockheed Martin, New York Stock Exchange ticker LMT, and NanoRacks, which is a private company.
Yeah.
So that's the second bid. They announced plans to build a space station called Starlab.
Okay.
So
given current government contracts, I would say they're in the running.
Okay. Appreciate your commentary as we go here. And then the third bid, which I have labelled the Billionaires Bid, is Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' private space company, and Sierra Space, which is... have you heard of the company Sierra Nevada?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the billionaire owner of that, Faith Osman, this is his space spin-off of the company, also private, and so this is the Billionaires Bid. Together they've got a bid.
Unless there's one, there's a clear company that's missing that I thought would have put their hat in the ring. Yeah. What happened?
Well, that's why I said before, we want to stress these are the three bids at the moment.
Yeah.
But I also think like this perhaps isn't in Elon's project pipeline. If it's build
rockets, International Space Station.
Well, no, if it's build rockets that can get to Mars and then build a colony on Mars.
What do you
building something that's in space as opposed to focusing on building a colony on Mars? Like the technology would be quite different, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like build a halfway hut, stop over on the way kind of vibe.
I don't think they're doing like 2-hour driver revivers.
You never know. Regulation may change.
So they're the three bids. Of those five companies that we mentioned, Lockheed Martin is the only public company, and it's important to stress that this space project, it would be a tiny proportion of their whole business. So tough to get some pure space exposure if you want to invest.
Could become massive though.
Could become massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So Axiom have been talking about it for years, as we mentioned. I couldn't find the name of their space station. Maybe it's Axiom. Lockheed and NanoRacks have called their space station Starlab. They want to get it into the air by 2027 to ensure continued US presence and leadership in low Earth orbit. So no pretense of global cooperation there.
No.
And then Blue Origin and Sierra Space have called theirs the Orbital Reef. And they've positioned it primarily as space business, and they've pitched it as a mixed-use business park in space.
I wonder if this NASA project where they're going to allocate funding is only going to go to US businesses.
I would imagine so, yeah.
So
I would imagine a lot of US government procurement does
just
like
US.
they're not allocating it to non-US businesses.
Yeah.
But that's also just about like US jobs and
of course,
all that
security,
stuff.
blah, blah.
So three big bidders. I think this is going to happen. Like,
I think it's going to happen.
My question is, if only one of these companies wins the NASA bid, but there's enough private capital sloshing around in markets, will we see multiple private space stations in the coming years?
I feel like if Bezos can get a space station up there, we're going to see enough wealth of the top 10 richest guys in the world continue. Like Bezos, what's his name? Musk, 335 billion.
Yeah.
He'll be able to send a couple up if he wants to. Like, I can imagine it. I can see it being a
just chuck a couple up, would you?
I can see it being like future. I'm talking future here, but it's the new ultra high wealth holiday destination. Like
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And VCs will start getting in all of this stuff, and it's
I think there's a lot of VC money in space at the moment.
but I can see that for sure. Not just the one, but it'll be an international space station, or it'll be a space station for.
I guess my challenge to you would be, there's serious costs in sending people up there, maintaining it up there, and how many projects or extremely rich people have the funds to go up there? You know, like some scientific research projects will have the budget to do it. Some billionaires and millionaires will want to go on trips up there, but I think
it'll be a vanity thing. Like people spend over $1 billion on a yacht.
No, isn't Bezos's the most expensive yacht, and it's $500 million?
No, that's literally a yacht. Like it's got sails. There's super yachts that the Russians have built that are motor that are like a B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, look, I would love to see it. I would love to see.
Because I think as it becomes cheaper to get up there, and I'm talking 50, 100 years.
Okay. Yeah.
But who knows? It's pretty fascinating.
I'm talking this decade. Like Lockheed and NanoRacks want to be orbiting above us by 2027. That's 6 years. That's 6 years away.
Yeah. Well, that's going to have to happen if the ISS is out of business in 2028.
Yeah. So, anyway, fascinating story. We're really just at the beginning of it. NASA will start allocating these contracts if Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin's track record is anything to go by. Then we'll see a few court cases. We'll see someone sue someone. We'll see a lot of complaints. Then they'll straighten that out, and then the money will actually be allocated. Elon will tweet a bit. But this is the start of what is, I guess, the next step in the privatization of space. So love it or hate it, it feels like it's happening, and it's a fascinating story to watch.
That's it. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode and another week here on AusBiz. If you've enjoyed our content or want to know more about what we're doing, head to equitymates.com. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with a long-form interview talking all things small caps and emerging companies, a space we all love. So have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.